What's up guys, so much news to cover for the next 3 months in War of the Visions. In this video we're covering the upcoming units and vision cards to get you better prepared to plan out your account and spending for the future. A lot of news to cover. We have Final Fantasy 15 right around the corner, Final Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy 14, and the big one, Final Fantasy VI was announced on the JP livestream for the 2-year anniversary in War of the Visions. This is the biggest news to hit War of the Visions since the launch of the game, and I say that because 6 is the greatest Final Fantasy game of all time, and for you young bucks that swear up and down on 8 and 9, please, the adults are trying to have a conversation here. 6 brings in Locke, Terra, and Celis, which we'll talk about near the end of the video. For me personally, this is the first time that I've been genuinely giddy and excited for War of the Visions since the announcement of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Unlike the last couple of nightmare months that have been filled with limited time stuff, I think for free-to-play and light spenders and new players, there's not only a light at the end of the tunnel, there's a whole team of lights. I'll explain what I mean as we get into the video. If you like the video, prove you're a treasure hunter and not a thief, hit that like and subscribe buttons below, strap up your Magitech armor because we are bioblasting our way through the next 3 months in War of the Visions. First up, we have Oberon. You already made up your mind here on George Michael, but just in case you're still on the fence, it's a pretty easy discussion. If you have the ability to pair him with Strong Earth, he's a no-brainer. He's not only mono element though, as he slots in pretty well with rainbow teams as well, just like King Mont or Black Witch Helena can. That said, for free-to-play and light spenders, you better be able to maximize his abilities. Doing that starts with the Protoss Deer. If you pulled Oberon, definitely grab this card and Esper for the 10k. The board on the Esper has Earth attack, and Pierce attack. Even if you aren't using it for Earth, you could go Pierce or Earth attack, lightning killer and missile resistance, making it a great all-purpose anti-Clouderica Esper, even if you don't have Oberon. However, I think if you don't have Oberon, you're probably already have better Earth cards on your account, and if you don't already have Strong Earth, then you could probably just wait to pull the Esper later, since it's non-limited. Pharm is next, and the hype is actually starting to build around Pharm a little bit. I mentioned last month that she was being overlooked, but people are definitely starting to catch on. She's an extremely versatile unit with evasion, slash attack, range attack, and more. Her EX Shuriken is insane for dealing with these constant re-raise and courage mechanics, making her very effective against many of the meta units in global like UR Zazon, Yuna, and more. That said, she's a lot more useful to experienced accounts that can take advantage of her ability to flex by using a variety of different water vision cards. For newer players, I think she's going to be a full pass unless you somehow manage to get Lara and Winter Victoria at 120 EX. Even then, without a lot of water vision cards to allow her to flex in the different roles that she's so good at, she still might be a pass. After that, we get Final Fantasy 15, the 3 units and 2 vision cards we get, Noctis, Prompto, and Aranea, and then we get an Earth and an Ice vision card. Prompto is the unit that all players will get for free during the 15 collaboration. A dark ranged unit, he specializes in status effects and debuffs more than he does damage. Of course, you can slot him in with Hot Mama or Dwayne, but he can also synergize well with Golbez and Kain coming up from Final Fantasy IV, since they also both inflict debuffs if you want a unique team. One thing I will note on Prompto is he's not really fantastic for PvE events, but he has gotten a lot of use in JP during PvP events, simply because status effects are one of those things that not a lot of people plan for. If you're pulling for Noctis or Aranea, you're definitely going to 99 Prompto for the extra Mind Spheres. Most free-to-play though, I don't think investing too much Visuor into Prompto is a good idea. If you can get there with minimal Visuor, Soul Stars, and Soul Medals, that's probably the best route to get him to 120. Noctis is an awesome unit. He's kind of like a flex bruiser and slash attacker, which is something that complements units like Oberon, Halarica, and Grizzly Adams. Earth is clearly the current focus for the developers at War of the Visions, and Noctis is definitely a central piece of that. His kit has some barrier breaking, attack and magic debuffs, and some extra attacking stuff. I mentioned this last month, but I think he's a lot like Titus, where he can be a great all-rounder, but he's only really going to shine in Earth teams with the correct vision cards. This means that if you plan on pulling Noctis, make sure you pick up Oath of Salvation as well. This vision card is just basically required for physical attacking Earth teams, which, let's face it, that's like all Earth teams right now. Even if you're a Halorika and Bearboy shipper, this card is just amazing all around for Earth teams. Even outside of these specific limited time units, almost every account should consider pulling the Oath of Salvation, and I say that because this card has the bonuses of Fenrir and Ifrit together with stats for both magic and attack, and it has awesome unit effects. Like thanks for the votes, this Oath of Salvation's card is going to be a useful card for all accounts, even if it's like 6 or 8 months before you build up your Earth team. Everyone should consider grabbing this one, especially if we get that 2k paid guaranteed banner. Then we have Aranea, the waifu of 15, or at least the War of the Visions version of 15. She's an Ice Pierce unit, and you can see here that I have new players should consider 120 EX on her, and I say that specifically because she does pair really well with 2 non-limited units in Laswell and Victoria. Even if you grab her and her card now, in a couple of months you'll have a pretty formidable, easily accessible free-to-play team. This would be Aranea, Laswell, and Victoria with her card, Fenrir, and maybe something like Odin. That's a really easily attainable, very strong team that new players could assemble. So ultimately, with new players that are coming into the game in 15, I'm probably going to recommend they go with Aranea and her vision card over the other units, plus you get the bonus that she's an anchor account waifu, because, you know, let's be honest here. Her matching vision card is fantastic for all ice teams, and as we mentioned, it's great for newer players who are grabbing up Aranea. Experienced ice accounts might already have things like Fryevia's or Laswell's or Belric's vision cards, so it's not really a must for all ice teams if you already have some of those cards. I do think that if you ship Victoria or Aranea, you should do yourself a favor and definitely grab this. After Final Fantasy 15, we will see the start of like a new story in War of the Visions, which focuses around these Knights of the Crystal, Lucio being the first of these and the main character. All players should be getting him for free, which is great news. He's a solid light slash attacker and bruiser type unit, so let me talk about what that means for a minute with that free tag on him. For experienced players, you probably have much better light units like Elena, Yuna, Warrior of Light, Jaden, Summer Kilthay, blah 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 blah, but new players or those like myself that have really weak light units, Lucio is the first in a series of free light slash attackers that we'll be getting. So you can see in the bottom right there, I have Cecil, Thancred, and Locke, which all accounts will be getting for free over the next 4 or 5 months. I'm going to talk about this a little bit at the end of the video, but it's pretty obvious why this is great news for free-to-play or newer players. Rafale, or Slutty Miranda as I like to call her, is the Ice Selection Quest unit we will get in December. Big time pass for everyone. She might be sexy, but she's pretty much just like that mannequin you put in the window because she serves no purpose whatsoever. Experienced players will all have better ice units like Agrius, Oberon, Aranea, Fryevia, but even if you manage to skip every single limited time ice unit, all of the non-limited ice units I think are just flat out better investments. Units like Laswell, Victoria, Gilgamesh, Pom Pom Salir, and Velric are where I would dump those resources, not in building up 3 to 5 ice MRs just so you can have Rafale, who is so easily outclassed. Newer players won't have the resources to build up their MRs anyway to make Rafale useful, and experienced players probably already have vastly more useful ice units. Finally, we will have the Wind Crystal Warrior, Jume, and finally Wind gets a proper tank. She's a physical tank and bruiser unit, slash attacker, great complement to Tifa and 2B. She's a suitable third to draw attention away from any of your glass cannon wind units and to generate hate. And let's just get this out of the way right away. She is insanely good. Her kit includes some auto hit abilities, single target breaks, massive defensive buffs. Looking at the resists there, 15 slash, 20 pierce, 10 missile. We'll get to that negative 5% magic resist in a second. I stopped short of calling her a must pull for wind accounts, but that's only because you might already have a strong 3 if you picked up Halloween Leela or maybe Varouche. But man, she's got to be the closest thing to a must pull if you don't already have those units that I just mentioned. For non-wind teams, she's a pretty suitable rainbow tank actually. She'll be different than King Mont, but nearly as effective. She's not different enough from the Mac Daddy though that I would target her if I already had King Mont. Also, that negative 5% magic resist is being well overblown. Remember, King Mont is neutral to magic damage and he seems to do just fine. The last thing I want to mention here is that TMR gear. This is SSS plus tier for me. For almost all players, it's an accessory, not an armor. It gives an agility bonus, and the ability provides a 3-turn mini sentinel for defense and spirit. This is instantly one of the best, if not the best, TMR for mini tank units. If people were to ask me what is the one unit in the next 3 months that would be the best investment, I'd say it's Jume, hands down. Between all of the big collabs, we usually get one unit that's kind of like this. Sakura, King Mont, Jaden. Jume is that guy, Amos. Or, I guess, that gal. Finally, we have the Golden Ahriman coming right after Jume. It's her matching card. If we get a global upgrade, which has been the case for most of these cards, it goes from strongly consider to must pull for Jume. Remember that negative magic resist too? This gives 20% of that back as well as 10% single target resist, more defense on the card. Combined with the spirit buff on 2B's card, your wind units will actually be able to stand up to things like Elena, Jaden, and Helena, etc. The Esper has even more wind attack, defense, slash resist, and HP. Strong wind accounts would be wise to grab this card, not only for PvP, but also PvE events like raids and Esper chambers, where bosses throw out these large magic attacks. If you don't care much for wind, congratulations, you're like 99% of other humans, but seriously, wind is the worst weather condition. I digress. Non-winders can probably pass and hope to grab up the Esper later. Final Fantasy IV should hit in mid-January. We'll dive into these kits as the event gets closer, but some quick notes here. EX Cecil is a free, not spectacular, but pretty useful light tank. Golbez and Kain can be targets if you're building Prompto, and Rosa has to be the single least seen unit in all of War of the Visions. However, I think she could be massively overlooked in Global specifically as an ice sister to Freyevia. If you have Freyevia, I imagine that's a direction that you should probably go. The 2-year anniversary livestream announced EX for the Final Fantasy XIV units, which means Thancred and Y'shtola. Thancred's another free light slasher. His EX upgrades are okay. Thancred has always been a sore spot for us here in War of the Visions, and while his EX helps, it's still pretty niche, and he's more of a cool unit than he is an anchor unit. Lastly, y'all know about it, Final Fantasy VI. It's coming to War of the Visions. We'll get this with the 2-year anniversary sometime in March for Global. Terra is a fire spellblade type unit. Celeste is a water magic tank, and I think the most awesome thing about the initial looks at the kits is that Celeste actually gets her runic ability, and it works exactly as it does in Final Fantasy VI. If she gets targeted by a reflectable magic attack, she straight up eats the entire attack completely and gains AP. Love, love, love. Let's talk about Locke for a second. He's the free UR unit from the collab, and he's another light slasher who can reduce slash resist and chain, and come on, talk about the art team absolutely killing it on these Final Fantasy VI characters. But this leads me into what I mentioned before, but up through the 2nd anniversary, we will be getting 4 free light slash units, and while none of these units are game-breaking, I wouldn't say, or meta-type units, I think this is going to be an awesome thing for newer players, or maybe even casual players who didn't build up all of these limited time light units. This team should be solid for things like PvE events, and as these units start getting handed out, I personally think it's a good idea. for most players to throw a few soul stars and soul medals at these units and build them up. Specifically for free to play or budget players, these new units will be great for a variety of different game modes. I really love the upcoming months for free to play in War of the Visions. EX jobs for OG units, not a lot to talk about here. Killface seems disappointing. Miranda's interesting, but I have yet to see anyone use her. I think there's just too much slash and magic piercing in the game now that her EX kit's a little too late. Lucia and Ildira get solid EX jobs, and Nivi, not much hype for the Nivlu EX, but I'm sure she will make the Clouderica teams even more annoying, or maybe it just becomes Cloud Lu, either way. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. So much to cover, but I'm so excited for Final Fantasy VI. Me personally, I'm full skip on 15 and 4, unfortunately. I'll be grabbing up Jume and the Ahriman card since I main Wind, and then it's straight Scrooge McDuck in it for the Final Fantasy VI at the 2-year anniversary. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys are looking forward to in the next couple of months. Remember, if you need a deal on Vizure or Amazon coins, don't forget to use the link in the description below to support the channel. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you next time.